to do this. He has something that's been burning on his heart related to Ephesus, the book of Ephesus, that I think is really incredible to cover. But hasn't this been an amazing? This has been absolutely unbelievable. So inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So I'm gonna turn it over to my bud.
Buddy.
Yeah. Did I do the right one? Yeah. Here, put that around your neck, and then you got it. Okay.
It's getting hot.
Yeah, it's warming up.
How this works.
Hey, I think one of the things we probably all have a lot of thoughts, and the book of Ephesians to me is probably one of the most important books. And I think one of the passages in the book of Ephesians, which we can read, has just really been transformational in my life and just giving me different perspective. But I don't know what you guys thought. I've seen a lot of different, I think, documentaries and just different message series on this. But to me, I remember when I first read Ephesians, thinking that Ephesus was probably this tiny little town, this one stoplight town, and then just coming here and just being able to read more about it, it's amazing. It's extraordinary. And I think I remember reading one time, I don't know if this is actually true, whether it was like the fourth largest city in the ancient world.
Yes, 250,000 people.
Yeah.
But it was the richest one.
Richest one. So when I think about that, it's like if we were to think about it today, it would be like Los Angeles or Hong Kong or Tokyo or a city of like that type of magnitude, which is absolutely extraordinary. But when I think about this, right, and so when I think about early church, first century AD, a lot of amazing things happen, a lot of beautiful things happen, but at the same time, when we actually look at the book of Ephesus, I think we also see some of the issues that they were having to deal with. And even when we were at the very first place that we went to, and we were talking about the first three people who actually became followers of Jesus, who became Christians, I actually see, you begin to see the collision course that's about to happen. Because the first three are, you have a wealthy, single businesswoman named Lydia, and then you have a servant girl, and then who was the last one? Or the third one? The Roman jailer, right? And so you have a Gentile then who comes in, and then you think about like the message of Jesus spreading all across the world, and then all of the diversity that's present, the different cultures that's present, the different ways of thinking, and all of that is just coming together and it's colliding, right? And so I would like to think, and in my in my vision of the church, I would like to think that, hey, you know what? Everyone just got together and it was all amazing and fun and everyone loved each other, but that wasn't the case, not by any means. And so when you actually see a little bit of it in the book of Ephesians, and the book of Ephesians is like incredible to me. It's 6 chapters that Paul wrote to this church in the first century AD, and it like splits. When you actually read it, it splits down the middle in such a beautiful way. In the first 3 chapters, Paul basically says to these people, and he reminds them, hey, this is who you are. Like, remember who you are. Remember what your identity is in Jesus. And he just says that over and over again. Like, this is who you are. This is who you are. This is what Jesus did for you, right? And then in the last 3 chapters, then he says, in light of our identity, in light of this is who we are, and understanding that, this is then how we should live. Right? And he does such a masterful job of it. But I think this is like the passage that has really impacted me and really changed my life in a significant way. And if you have like the Bible with you, it's Ephesians chapter 2 and verses 11 to 22. And I think it's just absolutely beautiful what he says. And it's a powerful reminder to us as well. Right? And he starts in verse 11, and I'll just stop and I'll just give a couple thoughts on this. But this is what he starts saying in verse 11. He says, therefore remember that formerly you who are Gentiles by birth and called uncircumcised by those who call themselves the circumcision which is done in the body by human hands. Remember, he continues to talk about, hey, remember who you are, this is your identity. Remember at that time you were separate from Christ, excluded from citizenship in Israel, and foreigners to the covenants of the promise, without hope and without God in the world. And I think that's incredible. That's who we were too, right? And he's reminding them, hey, remember, you were on the outside looking in at one point, right? And then the 2 most extraordinary words, but he says, but now. right? But now because of Jesus, everything has changed. But now in Christ Jesus, you who once were far away have been brought near by the blood of Christ. For he himself is our peace, who has made the two groups one and has destroyed the barrier, right? The dividing wall of hostility. And one of the things that this reminded me of, right, is that in Jerusalem, the way that the temple is set up, right, is just, there's a literal dividing wall. And so in the temple, there are 5 courts. And I think one of our tour, maybe it was Kostas, he mentioned it, right? And if you've been to Israel, you've seen the setup of the temple, right? Because in the temple, there's these 5 sort of areas, right? And depending upon who you are, depending upon your race and ethnicity, and also by your sex, that determines how far you can enter in, right? And so the very first court, because they're called courts, is the court of the Gentiles, right? And anybody can be there, right? If you're male, female, whether regardless of whatever your race is, whatever your skin color is, regardless of what your background and where you're from, like, you can go there, right? But then the next court is the court of women, right? And only Jewish people can go past that point, right? If you're not a Jew, the court of the Gentiles is as far as you go, right? And so then is the court of women, which is where Jewish men and women can go. And then after that is the court of Israel, where only Jewish men can go. And then is the holy place, which is only where the priest can go. And then the most holy place, which is only where the high priest